All right, guys, welcome back to the Maverick Perspective, where we dive deep into the stories shaping our world. If you're curious about what you might be missing or ready to question everything you thought you knew, you're in the right place. Stay with us as we go ahead and peel back the layers of today's headlines and uncover the insights that just might surprise you. So we got this article here from NPR. And as you can see from the title here, as Harris inches ahead, the cavalry comes to Trump's aid on the airwaves. So the focus of what we're going to be doing here, we're going to go ahead and peel back the layers of this and go ahead and look underneath the headlines and go ahead and expose the spin, give you a different perspective on what's going on here. With polls showing former President Trump slipping behind Vice President Harris in multiple states, Trump's allies are stepping on the gas to try and make up ground, according to a new NPR analysis of ad data provided in partnership with the ad tracking firm Ad Impact. Trump's campaign and outside groups supporting him, call them Team Trump, are now outspending Team Harris in 4 of the 7 swing states. That represents a sharp turnaround from earlier in the campaign when Biden was dominating the airwaves. Isn't it fascinating how the left loves to point out when Trump is trailing? It's like they found Waldo and now they're shouting, "Look, he's losing." But if you ever played that game, you know that the real fun starts when Waldo starts moving. Trump's strategy? Think of it as Waldo on steroids. It's not about where he is now. It's about where he'll end up when it counts. They may be outspending him now, but Trump knows when to drop the hammer, probably right when Harris is getting comfy with her chai latte. But let's not forget this. We're dealing with a guy who built a multi-billion-dollar empire with his name plastered on everything from steaks to vodka. You think he's sweating over a few dollars? Please. Trump is the kind of guy who'd show up to a poker game, let everyone think he's losing, and then drop a royal flush when they've already spent their winnings in their heads. Trump's campaign said a spending surge was always in the plans for around the time of both political conventions, but the increase includes states like North Carolina that previously leaned to Trump's direction. Trump's allies spent little there before Harris entered the race. New investments there show how things have moved. Pennsylvania is, by far, the state with the most significant ad spending in the past month, with almost $100 million in total. That figure is 54% more than the next closest state, Michigan. So that actually brings me to this, right? Pennsylvania, the land of cheesesteaks, brotherly love, and apparently a whole lot of political spending. You'd think with that much cash flying around, the voters there would be swimming in gold coins like Scrooge McDuck. But nope, just more ads telling you who to hate this week. Let's be real here for a second. 100 million in political ads? That's like trying to win over your ex by sending her a million texts after she's already blocked your number. Harris can spend all she wants, but it's going to take a lot more than that to win over the folks who know a Philly cheesesteak from a California avocado toast. And what about North Carolina? A state that's usually leaning one way, but now it's up for grabs like that last slice of pizza from the frat party. The media wants you to think that this is Harris's doing, but let's be honest. North Carolinians are fiercely independent. You think a few million bucks in ads is going to change their minds? We're talking about the same people who put vinegar in their barbecue sauce. They don't do things just because someone told them it's the trendy thing to do. All right, back to this article. All included, however, when considering national advertising and non-state specific digital advertising, Team Harris has outspent Team Trump in the past month by more than 50 million. 246.3 million to 192 million. That's largely because of Harris's spending during the Olympics, as well as her domination online. On digital, Team Harris has spent about 72 million compared to Trump's 16 million. Younger voters take in more of their information online, and they certainly represent a critical piece of Harris's potential base. She's practically the queen of the internet, and I'm not talking about the "I made a funny cat" video way. More like, I'm sliding into your DMs with a side of progressive guilt. But here's the thing though, digital ads are like Tinder profiles, flashy, full of filters, and mostly lies. Sure, she's swiping right on every young voter, but are they really swiping back? Or are they just in it for the meme of the moment? What, you just think you fell out of a coconut tree? And let's talk about that Olympic spending. She dropped more cash during the Olympics than I've seen in a Las Vegas blackjack table at 3 a.m. But remember, just like the blackjack table, it's not the high rollers who win in the end. It's the house. It's always the house. You have to remember that. And in this case, the house is made up of voters who've seen it all before and aren't easily swayed by a shiny new ad. But I still have to give credit where it's due. Harris knows her audience. The problem is the internet loves to chew up and spit out the flavor of the week faster than a TikTok dance craze. Today's trending, tomorrow's forgotten. And while Harris is spinning like there's no tomorrow, Trump is over here playing the long game, knowing full well that today's meme is tomorrow's cringe. And I think everyone wants to be unburdened by that burden. All right, the article goes on. Overall, so far since the beginning of this presidential cycle, more than 1.6 billion has either been spent on ads that have already run or been booked through election day. Democrats have spent 882 million to Republicans 721 million. And I'm thinking to myself, like, look, right? $1 billion on ads. Just let that sink in for a second. You could feed a small country, rebuild Detroit, or maybe even get Starbucks to spell your name right for once. But instead, we're splurging on political ads. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about where our priorities lie, I don't know what will. It's like deciding to spend your entire paycheck on lottery tickets. You're not changing anything. You're just feeding the machine. But let's break this down a little bit further. Think about where this money is going. Mostly into the pockets of TV networks, social media platforms, and those charming folks who tell us what to think. It's like buying the same bad album over and over again because they keep changing the cover art. The race to define Harris. Viewers were not solidified about Harris when she entered the race, so it's perhaps not surprising that the most run ads have all been about trying to define who she is. In total, the top 5 most aired ads in the past month are all about Harris and add up to nearly 100 million. That's a lot of scratch. Democrats are putting forward gauzy ads focused on her biography and Contra. So, fact checking the ads. The ad that has aired the most, more than 45,000 times, is from Harris's campaign and is heavy on her background. It echoes her conviction speech, portraying her as growing up working class, was raised by her mom, and points out that she worked at McDonald's. It then pivots to healthcare and housing costs while criticizing Trump for the tax cuts that skewed towards benefiting the wealthy. The ad with the most behind it, 25 million, is the anti-Harris ad from a super PAC supporting Trump, MAGA Incorporated. It attacks her on her record on handling immigrants in the United States illegally during her time as a prosecutor. But a charge in that ad, while it has a kernel of truth, is misleading. See, this is the stuff we're talking about. Her office convicted Edward Ramos, a member of the MS-13 gang, for the murder of her father and 2 sons. Ramos, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is now serving 3 consecutive life sentences. Following through on a campaign promise, Harris did not seek the death penalty, a decision conservatives have criticized. The ad also alleges that Harris let Ramos go on another crime before he committed the murder. The fact on this is actually complicated, the facts on this are complicated. Ramos had been pulled over for illegally tinted windows and no front license plate. The passenger in the car, Eric Lopez, got out and ran. Police saw Lopez toss a gun into a gutter. Both men were arrested, but Harris did not bring charges against Ramos because, as the San Francisco Chronicle reported per Harris's office, and I quote, there was no evidence that Ramos had known that Lopez had a gun. Now, here's where things get fun, right? Check this out. The article says that the ad is misleading, but acknowledges that it has a kernel of truth. That's like saying your date kind of lied about their age, but hey, they were honest about everything else. A kernel of truth? Sure, Harris didn't push for the death penalty, but the idea that she let a guy like Ramos slip through the cracks, that's the kind of kernel that pops into full-blown scandal. And trust me, those kernels don't come with butter and a side of good intentions. The fact of the matter is, she let someone go and 2 people are now dead. Let's dig a little deeper here, right? Because that's what we do. The article tries to downplay the seriousness by saying the facts are complicated. Well, folks, life is complicated. But when you're in a position of power, especially one where public safety is on the line, you don't just use complicated as an excuse. If this was a reality TV show, this would be the moment where the dramatic music kicks in and you realize your favorite contestant just might be getting a boot. The article continues. Despite his immigration status, Ramos was not turned over to the federal authorities because of San Francisco policy of being a sanctuary city. But at the time, Harris opposed the city's policy of not turning juveniles in the country illegally over to federal authorities. Ironically, she actually had to contend with the criticism from the left on this 2020 Democratic presidential primary. Does anybody else see the irony here? I mean, Harris caught flack from her own team for not being woke enough back in the day. You see, this is exactly what happens when you try and juggle too many identities at once. You drop the ball on all of them. It's like trying to be the cool mom and the disciplinarian at the same time. You end up with kids who respect neither. And Harris, she's the politician trying to please everyone, and in the end, impressing no one. But let's not stop there. Let's get deeper. Imagine being criticized by the left for not being progressive enough and by the right for being too soft. That's like being the referee in a dodgeball game where both teams are actually pelting you with the ball. Harris is out here trying to appeal to everyone, but in the process, she's becoming a political version of a Swiss Army knife. Useful in theory, but not particularly good at anything specific. And let's be real here. If Harris can't even satisfy her own party, how's she going to handle the pressure of running a country? What we need is someone who's got a backbone and isn't afraid to make the tough calls, even if it means ticking off a few people along the way. So there you have it, crew. A prime example of how narratives are spun tighter than a politician's smile. But here at the Maverick Perspective, we don't just skim the surface. We dive deep, we dissect, and we deliver the truth with a side of corny humor. Because if you can't laugh at the absurdity of it all, you're probably not paying attention. Remember, at the end of the day, it's not about who spent the most money or who aired the most ads. It's about the choices we make, the policies we stand for, and the leaders we choose to represent us. And that, my friends, is something you cannot buy with all the money in the world. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more, make sure you subscribe, drop a comment with your thoughts, and share with your friends, especially the ones who need a good laugh with some corny humor. And remember, we're just getting started here at the Maverick Perspective. Stay tuned for more insights, more laughs, and a lot more truth. See you next time.